Well, boys, it's the end. The end of Tribe 9 is here. Today, they put out their end of service announcement. In what I believe, after a mere 2 months of the game's release, we are seeing an end of service announcement. They've had 2 patches so far. Their starting patch and then version 1.1.0. That was it. And they tweeted out today saying, that's it, boys. We'll see you next time. They have said that service for Tribe 9 will be terminated on November 27th, 2025. They've announced there will be no Chapter 4. All scheduled updates and new contents releases have been canceled. Every character that was upcoming, Ichinosuke Akiba, who is legit supposed to come out this update. I think he was coming out in like 10 days, along with Saizo Akiba, who was again a 4-star or 2-star character, technically, who was coming out in 4 days. Yeah, they're not coming out anymore. It's done. And honestly, I woke up to this news and it made me a little sad. It did. If you don't know, I was a huge fan of this game on release. I made a sponsored video on the day of the release of the game. But past that, I actually enjoyed it so much that I actually ended up making a couple more videos for the game. I made my first ever summon videos, which actually did pretty well. That video did 23K. And I made another video doing more summons because the devs gave us a little bit of refunds of pulls, which we'll talk about a bit later because that is a huge reason for the game's fallout. But I was a huge fan of this game. In case anyone doesn't believe me, I had 30 hours clocked on the game. That is 30 hours I'll never get back of my life. But that's okay. I truly did have a lot of fun with this game. I did. I think, though, the problem with the game is it was too niche of an audience. I do. If we're being real, this game was dead on launch. I watched the Gacha Smack video this morning, which I always enjoy. I always feel like Gacha Smack's got a good head on his shoulders and will always have a pretty reasonable take on matters. And one thing he pointed out in this video was he brought up the Steam charts. And as you can see, this game just declined from launch. It started up here, ended down here. There was no spikes. Now, typically with gacha games, there's a huge spike at release, right? I pulled up Google Trends as an example, and you can see a Tribe 9 compared to Genshin Impact. This isn't the greatest example because Genshin Impact is the most popular gacha game of all time. But let's take a look at maybe a more recent one that came out. Zenless Zone Zero might be a good example of that. And you could see this was the Zenless Zone Zero launch. It has a huge spike. Now, you'll notice with Tribe 9, I think their release was probably right here. This was the spike. This was the gigantic spike, and the only other time the game has spiked is today when they announced their end of service, and this is barely a spike. To put it even more into perspective, if you search up Silver Palace, which is a game I just made a video for, they just put out their announcement trailer today. Just with Silver Palace's announcement trailer, they are projected to double, no, not even that, triple anything that Tribe 9 has ever done since the start of the game, just with their announcement trailer. It's sad. It really is. I was never actually aware how dead the game really was, to be completely honest. I was personally a little blind to it. I knew it was dead on YouTube, but the thing is, you guys gotta keep in mind is that like every single gacha game is dead on YouTube besides like 3 of them. And you could see that with Tribe 9. I mean, even with the end of service announcement, the max views that people are getting on this is 903 hours, 600 1 hour ago. I mean, this isn't bringing in a lot of views, even their end of service announcement. But that's probably enough of talking about how dead the game was. I think we all get the point. The game was pretty dead. But now let's talk a bit about why they died out so quickly. Well, let's take a look at the gacha revenue data. So on launch, this game was at the bottom of the charts. They had 7,000 downloads on Android, 1,000 downloads on iOS, and as Gacha Smack showed here with the Steam charts, this game had an all-time peak of 9,000 players. That is absolutely horrendous. Now, why is this? Well, first off, the game's pixelated. It throws you into a pixelated world, which I'm gonna be honest, a majority of the gacha game fans just want to look at boobs, bro. They don't want to see pixels. Also, you had characters who looked like this, which, you know, to each their own. But generally, I'm gonna generalize the gacha fan base here a bit. They want to look at pretty characters. And this game didn't really deliver on quote unquote pretty characters or like ideal characters, which it just is what it is. I think the combat was actually a lot of fun. I had a lot of good time with the combat, but it was kind of the Zenless Zone Zero combat, just done a little bit worse and a little bit slower. It's just not as satisfying as Zenless Zone Zero was. It's a lot more slow paced and a little more strategic. It felt very repetitive at times. I personally enjoyed it, but I can see why someone wouldn't enjoy it. I think the other problem for this game is this, from what I saw here in like the 3D animations, the gameplay, the enemy models, I feel like this game probably costs quite a bit. I obviously can't know that for sure, but this game looked expensive. It did not look like it was made cheaply. It looked like it was made with a lot of love. And the return for their investment, well, from what the Gacha revenue charts say, well, it was about $600,000 or $100,000 this month, which I can promise you the game probably cost way more than that. And it's kind of weird too, man, because I was getting sponsors for this game, like literally, what was it? This sponsor was 3 weeks ago. I made a sponsor for this video. Maybe I was like a last ditch effort kind of thing. I know they were sponsoring a ton of creators for their 1.1.0 update. And I think that was generally the right call to make, was to sponsor creators, try to get more eyes to your game. Another good point that I think Gacha Smack made in this video is that it had a very prominent male cast, which for a Gacha game, I mean, it's just typically a bad decision unless it's like an overly sexualized male cast like we saw with Love in Deep Space, and how much that game succeeded because it filled the huge niche of, I don't even know how to describe the Love in Deep Space niche. Would it be like Gunnar girls maybe? I don't know. That's beyond me. I've never played the game. But generally, prominent female casts tend to do better. I mean, there are exceptions to this rule, but as you see in the top of the charts, I mean, Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, Zenless Zero, Wuthering Waves, Arknight's Fate, it's all prominent male-female casts. You're not seeing many prominent male casts unless they have a big backing with an anime, like, for example, One Piece Bounty Rush, Dragon Ball Z, are all gacha games with a anime backing to them, so they already have a little bit of traction already to them. Unfortunately, Tribe 9 did not have that. I think another important point to note on why the game died so fast is because early on in the game, they attempted to be greedy. You remember how I talked about this huge refund? At the very start of the game, they basically took away a bunch of the pulls that were in the beta release that you could find in chests and stuff, and it caused their Steam reviews to plummet. It caused their Steam reviews to plummet through the ground. So what they ended up doing was trying to have a devs listen moment where they refunded all the players, and this was great for the time. Refunding all the players was the best thing to do, but at the time, the mistake had already been made, man. Like, it was just too little, too late for the game. I think a lot of devs are going to try to do the woo strategy now of like messing up early on into the game and then trying to have a devs listen moment, which I just don't think this works anymore, man. I mean, you saw what happened with this game. Their reviews plummeted. They refunded all the players, but they just were not able to really recover from it. I wouldn't say this is even the primary reason why the game died, though. I think it definitely helped it die. Definitely propelled it along that path. But I just don't think a game this niche was ever going to be able to succeed in the gacha space, if we're being realistic. Tribe 9 was a game developed by 2Q Games and Akatsuki Games as well. Akatsuki Games is probably most prominently known. Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle was one of their biggest games. And 2Q Games was actually founded by ex-employees of Spike Chunsoft, who are actually developers of Danganronpa, one of my favorite games in the world. And they made a ton of games I like. Master Detective Archives Rancode, one of my favorite games of all time. I'm currently playing through the 100-Line Last Academy, also one of my probably favorite games of all time. But I think developing a gacha game was just outside of their standard. I don't think they were ready for what the gacha game industry was and how to really capture an audience in the gacha game industry with their very unique style of art and unique style of characters and unique style of story, which doesn't really fit what is normalized in this community, at least from what I've experienced and seen. Also, not a lot of people know this, but Tribe 9 also had an anime. They had a whole anime for this game to try to build up hype for it. This anime also had a generational fall off. It was an average rated at 6. I was actually debating watching it just to get some more lore on the game. Never ended up doing it. But yeah, it's actually crazy to think how much work went into this game and how little came out of it. I mean, we're talking years of work, a whole anime adaptation, sponsors, ads, everything. It probably just cost so much money that I honestly just feel so terrible for the developers, man. I really do. This sucks. My niche is dying, man. And honestly, at this point, it just makes me sad. So, with that being said, rest in pieces to Tribe 9. You will forever be missed. Genuinely sad about this one. We lost a good one today, boys. We lost a good soldier. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.